You've made comments on this. You believe Bitcoin is not a security. Is that true?
Well, I think the staff of the SEC have also, and the prior
Well,
chair.
I'm just asking you this question, and this is not a gotcha. I thought there's going to be an easy softball into harder questions. Harder questions. Do you think Bitcoin is a security?
I think I've said this in the past that I think that it doesn't
I'm asking you
meet the
to
Howey
answer
test.
my question now. This is not supposed to be hard.
I know. I said it
Just
does not meet the Howey test, which is the law of the land about being an
So
investment
it doesn't meet the
contract or
Howey test.
security.
So therefore, it's a commodity. Is that fair?
I would say it's not a security, and then the test is otherwise for other context is. But if you're just purchasing a Pokemon card,
If I purchase a Pokemon card, is that a security
retail
transaction?
store, that's not a security.
Okay. If I were to purchase a tokenized Pokemon card on a digital exchange via a blockchain, is that a security transaction?
I'd have to know more.
Okay. So for you, the process of tokenization is what transforms a non-security
just said
transaction into a security transaction?
Look, if the investing
I thought you were
public-
technology neutral.
If the investing public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others and they're exchanging funds, that's the core.
I see my time has expired, so.
Test and are therefore securities operating illegally outside of the U.S. regulatory umbrella?
As I've said, many of these assets are basically the public is anticipating
Sir, is
profits
that a
based
yes?
on the efforts of others.
Is the answer then yes?
Again, without prejudging anyone, I do think that the significant
Reclaiming my
majority
time.
are
I'll take it as a
investment
yes.
contracts.
And to be clear, sir, this perspective has nothing to do with a concern you noted in a speech last year where you said, quote, "Over the past year, several bank executives have shared their concerns with me about the sheer number of depositors who have moved money from their bank accounts into crypto-related exchanges and wallets," end quote. Right?
The concern that those bank executives raised was that there's
Again, I'm
those
reclaiming my time,
customers
sir.
were getting
No,
hurt. in
I've
the
asked you to
market.
answer the questions as short as I can so I can use the time I have, and it's clear that you would like to avoid answering the questions, in my opinion. An Obama-appointed judge in the Southern District of New York, a bank-friendly jurisdiction where you bring most of your cases, recently found that decentralized financial technology, quote, not only removes the so-called middlemen from these transactions, but it also allows users to interact through a variety of methods in an easy and efficient manner, end quote. The court also said underwriters, like the ones at banks where you work, sir, are, quote, precisely the types of individual roles that decentralized exchanges were designed to eliminate, end quote. Mr. Gensler, can you assure this committee that your style of regulation by harassment towards digital asset innovation is to the benefit of every American and not driven by your desires to protect industry incumbents?
This is a field that's rife with fraud and manipulation, and I'm looking out for the American investors who've been hurt by the crypto.
Yeah. I'll
fraudsters
reclaim my
and
time. Mr.
scammers.
Gensler, despite your years of rhetoric, like today, I'm convinced you are not an impartial regulator. Instead, it's clear that you are working to consolidate your own power, even though it means crushing opportunities for everyday Americans and, frankly, the financial future of this country. Even the federal courts are highlighting the damage you, sir, are doing to our constituents, and they're telling you that you don't have the legal authority to accomplish your goal of squashing competition in the financial markets. Congress has been telling you that too. Now, Mr. Gensler, I believe our great financial system is the definition of freedom in this country. And congressional policies must provide room for the traditional financial system to evolve alongside the disruptive digital asset ecosystem. That said, it cannot be understated that a common theme throughout your career, sir, is your relentless loyalty to the largest financial institutions at the clear expense of innovation, competition, and everyday Americans. I yield back.
I suspect some large financial institutions would not agree with that.
There's no question.
Your recent loss in court to Grayscale. Now that the SEC has the court's decision in hand, rejecting your rationale for denial, does the SEC plan to approve the current pending spot Bitcoin ETF applications?
Thank you for your letter. I did read it last night. Again, we're still taking this under advisement. It's a recent court action, and staff and commissioners will take it up as appropriate.
The court concluded that the SEC's denial of Grayscale lacked, quote, a coherent explanation and then, quote unquote, falls short of the standard for reasoned decision-making, and then was, quote unquote, arbitrary and capricious. How do you explain the SEC's actions there?
We do that which we do under the law as best we can. Sometimes things go into court. We're still considering that court decision. I think it was a district court. I'm sorry, it was appellate court. It was appellate court, but we're still considering that appellate court decision. And I don't want to get ahead of the staff or my fellow commissioners.
Proposed ESG disclosure rules, feedback that should make clear that the proposal for ESG disclosure is a major question, and it should make clear that you don't have the legal authority to do that. So I'd ask you to knock it off, cease and desist, and work with this body to pass a law if you want to regulate something. You know, frankly, your time as chairman has highlighted two problems, a Gary Gensler problem and a structural flaw in the SEC. And as I told you in April, I've proposed a solution called the SEC Stabilization Act. You're making the case for this bill easier every day you are acting as the chairman by doing rulemaking after rulemaking without any regard to the impact of these rules, or maybe that's the feature for you, I don't know. But it's having a massive impact on our markets. I mean, we have markets that truly are the envy of the world, and why would you disrupt them with processes that are driving capital out of our markets? Not because to avoid our laws, but to find some place where they can get clarity, where they can work with a regulator and get a decision and a path forward. So instead of selectively applied, you're not providing clarity with a rule that's evenly applied. You're intentionally shortening comment periods to limit feedback. And the courts have even called this arbitrary and capricious. You're pushing a woke political and social agenda, and I think abusing your role and the authority of the SEC as cover. So, I think fundamentally, the SEC Stabilization Act would remove the role of chairman. It would preserve the current commissioners, but it would add a sixth commissioner. So there would be no more than 3 from any one political party. And so that would provide a path that would make the SEC do what you're avoiding. Frankly, you're front-running Congress, you're front-running the courts, you're front-running even the own administration, and no one has held you to account for that. I mean, I wish the Biden administration would say you're fired, but the list of folks they need to do that for is long. Congress hopefully will with the SEC Stabilization Act. I yield.